For 42 years, a bizarre, massive monument stood on a lonely hill in northeastern Georgia. People called it the Georgia Guidestones, but it earned a more dramatic nickname, America's Stonehenge. And it's not hard to see why. Built from over 100 tons of solid granite, its purpose was to give humanity 10 guides, a kind of blueprint for rebuilding civilization after a disaster its creator thought was just around the corner. But the man who ordered it, he was a ghost. He showed up one day, paid for the whole thing in cash, demanded absolute secrecy, and then simply vanished. He left behind a mystery and a set of instructions so strange they spark decades of fear, controversy, and some pretty wild conspiracy theories. I'm Andy Roberts, and today I'm going to tell you the story of that man, the Doomsday monument he built, and how its violent end only made the enigma that much deeper. The story really kicks off on a Friday afternoon in June 1979 in Elberton, Georgia. It's a small city that proudly calls itself the granite capital of the world. A man described as well-dressed and articulate walked into the Elberton Granite Finishing Company. He went to the company president, Joe Fendley, with a strange proposal, and an even stranger name, R.C. Christian. Right from the start, the man admitted R.C. Christian wasn't his real name. He said he chose it because he was a Christian, and he claimed to represent a small group of loyal Americans who wanted to stay anonymous forever. This group, he said, had been planning this project for more than 20 years. Their dream was to build a monument that was huge and complex, something that would work as a compass, a calendar, and a clock, all designed to survive the worst disasters imaginable. Fendley, not surprisingly, was somewhat skeptical. He figured that this guy was nuts. And so to try and get rid of him, he just quoted a price that was several times higher than anything that could be deemed reasonable. But anyway, to his complete shock, Christian didn't even blink. He accepted the quote, which was supposedly over $100,000. In today's money, that's like $500,000. To sort out the money, Christian was sent to Wyatt C. Martin, the president of the local Granite City Bank. Martin would become the only other person in town to meet the mysterious client face to face. Christian told Martin his group wanted the monument in a remote spot, far from any tourist traps. He said he picked Elbert County because of its amazing granite, mild weather, and a surprising personal tie. His great-grandmother was apparently from Georgia. Martin was sworn to secrecy, and he took that oath seriously. For decades, right up until he died, he refused to spill the beans on Christian's true identity. He once told an interviewer, "They could put a gun to my head and kill me. I will never reveal his name." He promised Christian that once the project was done, he'd destroy every single piece of paper related to it, making sure that the sponsors' identities were lost to time. All Martin kept were his memories of a man with a powerful, urgent vision and a whole lot of cash to make it happen. Once the contracts were signed and money was wired, R.C. Christian slipped out of Elberton as quietly as he arrived, his real identity swallowed up by legend. With the money in the bank and the plans laid out, construction started on a 5-acre piece of land on the highest point in Elbert County. It was a spot the local Cherokee people had once called Al-Yeli Alohi, which means the center of the world. The final structure was unveiled to a small crowd of a few hundred people on March 22, 1980, and it was a masterpiece of engineering. It was made of 6 granite slabs weighing a staggering 237,746 pounds. 4 massive vertical stones, each over 16 feet tall, were set up in a star shape around a central pillar with a 25,000-pound capstone sitting atop of it. But this is way more than a sculpture. It was a finely tuned astronomical instrument. A hole drilled through the center stone pointed to the North Star. A slot was carved to line that up with the sun's solstices and equinoxes. And a small hole in the capstone let a single ray of sun pass through at noon every day, lighting up the date on the pillar. It was an American Stonehenge, all right, but unlike the ancient one, this one came with a message. And what a message it was. Carved into the faces of the 4 huge stones were 10 directives, a set of guides for humanity. Each one was repeated in 8 of the world's major languages: English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi, Hebrew, Arabic, Mandarin Chinese, and Russian. On the other side of the capstones, a shorter message was etched in 4 ancient languages: Babylonian, cuneiform, classical Greek, Sanskrit, and even Egyptian hieroglyphics. But it was those 10 guides for this new age of reason that would become the source of so much fascination and fear. They were: maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature, guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity, unite humanity with a living new language, rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason, protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Balance personal rights with social duties. Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. Be not a cancer on the earth, leave room for nature. The people who built it probably thought these were common sense rules that should speak for themselves, but for a lot of people, this wasn't a guide to a better future, it was a blueprint for a nightmare. The second the Guidestones were unveiled, they became a magnet for controversy. Some people saw the instructions as a helpful guide for rebuilding society after a Cold War nuclear apocalypse, but to others they read like a sinister manifesto. The first 2 rules especially send a shiver down the spine. Maintain humanity under 500 million? When the stones went up, the world's population was already over 4 billion. Today, it's over 8 billion. The math was pretty simple and terrifying. For this new age to happen, most of the human race would have to be wiped out. That plus the second guide, to guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity, sounded to many like a direct call for mass depopulation and eugenics. Conspiracy theories started swirling almost instantly. Was the name R.C. Christian a clue? Some thought it was a nod to Christian Rosencreutz, the legendary founder of the Rosicrucians, a secret society obsessed with ancient wisdom. Others believed the Guidestones were a public announcement from a shadowy global cabal, a new world order, hell-bent on creating a totalitarian world government. The part about a world court and new living language just added fuel to the fire. Over the years, the monument was vandalized again and again. Graffiti saying "Death to the New World Order" was spray painted on the stones. Some religious groups called the monument satanic, a slap in the face to the 10 Commandments. In 2022, a Georgia gubernatorial candidate, Candace Taylor, actually made destroying the satanic Guidestones part of her campaign, which brought a whole new wave of national attention and anger to the site. And just to make things even weirder somehow, there was a small tablet on the ground nearby that was supposed to explain everything. This tablet mentioned a time capsule buried 6 feet deep under it, but the spot for the date it was buried and the date it should be opened, they were left blank. Was there really a capsule, or was it just another mind game from R.C. Christian? For 4 decades, the stones stood there, a silent monument to their creator's strange vision. They were a tourist spot, a pilgrimage site for occultists who believed the land was sacred, and a constant scary warning to those who feared its message. The mystery of who R.C. Christian was only got deeper. Some researchers pointed to a man named Herbert H. Kirsten, an Iowa doctor with a well-known obsession with eugenics and population control, who also just so happened to be friends with the infamous eugenicist William Shockley. A documentary even found clues that seemed to link Kirsten to the project. But there was never any solid proof. The man behind the monument was still a ghost. Just after 4 a.m. on July 6, 2022, the long, simmering tension over the Guidestones blew up, quite literally. People living nearby were shaken awake by the sound and feel of a massive explosion. An explosive device had been set off at the base of the monument. Surveillance cameras, which had been put up after other acts of vandalism, caught the whole thing. The footage showed someone walking up to the monument, planting the device, and then a silver sedan speeding off into the dark. A few moments later, there's a bright flash, and one of the four main pillars, the one with the message in Swahili and Hindi, was blasted into a million pieces. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation and other authorities quickly descended on the site. Worried about public safety, they made a quick and final call. Later that same day, a backhoe was brought in to tear down the rest of the damaged stones, reducing them to a pile of rubble that was hauled away. After 42 years, America's Stonehenge was gone. The monument built to survive a catastrophe had been taken down by one person's violent act. News of the bombing went viral. Online, people were fiercely divided. Some called it an act of domestic terrorism and a pointless destruction of a landmark. Others cheered it on, with some, including the political candidate who wanted them gone, calling it an act of God against a satanic monument. The destruction of the Guidestones didn't solve the mystery. It just created a new one. Who planted the bomb? To this day, the GBI's case is still open, but no suspects have been named and no motive has officially been released. The person who destroyed the monument is just as anonymous as the man who built it. After the demolition, with the hilltop empty, there was one last piece of the puzzle, that time capsule. For years, people had guessed what could be inside. Now that it was an official investigation site, it was finally time to dig. Crews dug down 6 feet, right under the spot where the tablet had been. They dug, and they dug, and they found absolutely nothing. No capsule, no vault, no just plain dirt. The promises of a secret message to the future was just another one of R.C. Christian's tricks. It became a bit of an internet joke, with memes saying the capsule held a 1979 Playboy, a Saturday Night Fever 8-track, and a bag of Quaaludes. But the reality was much more empty. So now the story of the Guidestones is just a pile of unanswered questions. Who was R.C. Christian? Who were the loyal Americans he worked for? What was the real point of their 10 guides? And who finally decided the monument had to be blown up? The rubble of the Guidestones was given to the Elberton Granite Association for its museum. The county made it clear they're not rebuilding them, and the 5-acre plot of land was given back to its previous owner. Today, the highest hill in Elbert County is empty again. It's just a patch of gravel and weeds where a Doomsday monument used to stand. The Georgia Guidestones are gone, but the questions they brought up are more alive than ever. Was this a helpful guide for survivors of an apocalypse, or the creepy manifesto of a secret society with a dark plan? And was its destruction an act of justice, or a final violent attempt to silence a message someone was afraid of? You can share your theories in the comments down below. What do you think the Georgia Guidestones were actually all about? And make sure you're subscribed, because this is the first in a 3-part series. The saga of R.C. Christian and the Georgia Guidestones is a truly American mystery. It's a story that came out of Cold War fears, got supercharged by the internet, and ended with a bang that's still unsolved. The man who built the monument wanted to leave a message for all time, but maybe the real message is the mystery itself. He built a monument to reason, but it sparked passion and fear. He carved guides for unity, but they created bitter division. And in the end, the stones that were meant to survive the end of the world couldn't even survive the fractured, angry world they were born into. The man vanished, and now his monument has too, leaving us with nothing but a strange cautionary tale and an unsettling silence on a lonely Georgia hill.